What's up? It's been a while since we did this. I in January I had highfalutin ideas about like how often I was going to stream, and then I was like, "What do you guys want to see?" And I posted a Twitter poll, and you guys were like, "Deep dive on flatting," and I was like, "Can do." I was like, "That is something I am super educated about. I have opinions about why it's important and why you should learn it." And then uh, I was like, "Oh, but I got to include this." And then I was like, "I got to include this." And I was like, "Oh, this other thing is really important. I got to make sure to write that down." And then the deep dive on flatting snowballed into like this unwieldy thing that like I could not manage to do live. It just like wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. Um, so instead of doing it live, I think I'm going to put together a YouTube video, edited content meant to uh, educate more than entertain, for anyone who is thinking about getting into flatting. For the record, why I think it's important is that I started as a flatter, and most every colorist I know started doing flats for somebody. And even when I was coloring my own stuff, when I was struggling to get work in the first like 5, 6 years, I would fill in the gaps with a little bit of flatting, like sitting in the chair. Like if I'm not doing anything, I might as well flat. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna work on that this year. I have an interview with Brent Schoonover. I got to edit first. That requires a few small things before going live, and then I'm gonna start working on that. In the meantime, Steve very respectfully was like, "Hey, you ever gonna do portfolio reviews?" Because you don't know this if you watch it exclusively on Twitch and YouTube, but in my Discord, I talked about how I was going to move the portfolio review section from behind the paywall of twitch.tv, and I just made it public. So if you, let's cut over here. God, it's been so long since I've done this. So here's my Discord right here, and if you want a link to the Discord, that is down below in the About section on Twitch, and it is below every YouTube channel video I have up on YouTube right now. Link is right there. You can join the Discord. As you can see, there's a lot of like general chatting stuff, and then a lot of art and stuff, and then some resources, jobs, tool time, art tutorials, pages to pull down for practice, stuff like that. I try to make it. How do I have 200 notifications? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. The Ilion Party House. Don't worry about the. Look, the one thing we do is not talk about the Ilion Party House. Um, yeah. So I opened up specifically this channel right here. So we have a couple of portfolios in here already. Steve put his up here. I know I have two more on top of that. I'm going to try to do one a month. That's the goal. I don't want to drown you guys in portfolio reviews. And I'm going to try to color a little more on stream, because I think that I got wrapped up in that flatting video, and then I decided I like was going to work on that, and then I wasn't working on coloring, and I should just casually color on stream. It should be just a casual thing. I got in my head too much. This is a thing that I do. Get in my head too much. But yeah, join the Discord if you would like a portfolio. Oh yeah, no problem. There's Steve in the chat right now. If you would like a portfolio review, absolutely join the Discord. Drop your portfolio in there. You don't have to chat in the Discord every day. Just drop it in. Be like, hey, I watched the stream. Like, I would love my portfolio to be reviewed. Join the Discord and leave the Discord if you want. I don't know, whatever. I just want to make it as easy for you guys to get, especially now with like, you know, virus vectors and whatnot. Like, cons I'm not really hitting as many cons as I normally do. And in fact, I haven't gone back to cons yet. And so yeah, that's usually the best way to get your portfolio reviewed. is go to a convention, put it in front of like as many people as you can, anybody who's got time to look at it, and see what they say. Um, with that, let's get into Steve's portfolio. Um, like I said, put it in front of as many people as you can. I am one person. Some of this is going to be like solid advice. Some of this is going to be my own, like, I don't know, bias, my own taste. You know, there was one of the things that we were taught in SCAD was like, if you put your portfolio in front of a bunch of people and three of them tell you, oh, you got to fix that arm, it looks really bad, then like that arm looks really bad. If one person is like, that arm looks really bad, maybe you can let it slide, you know? So as always, many eyes on your work. It's a good thing. Before we get started with Steve's, let's just commend him for doing this. It's not easy putting yourself out there, especially when you're learning, and to do it publicly is amazing, and it's worth praise. And we should post up. Here's his Twitter and Instagram as well, right here. Twitter, he is at SDS50, and Instagram's same thing. You can see his work up here, and also delicious meats. That's excellent. So yeah, if you would like to hire him, here's his contact info. I will drop his website into the chat right now, and it will also be in the YouTube description down below once this is on YouTube. The site looks super clean. Like, this is all you need. Very, very basic setup. You have a smoker. Yes, for the delicious meats. Very, very easy. Like, I don't even know if you need the home. Just land it on sequential comic samples. That's something that I'm guilty of. My nickflurry.com has a home like landing page, and I'm like, just put them in the store. Like, just get to it. Just get to it. But yeah, it's something that's easily fixable. We're going to be talking about mostly his comic samples, because this is how you get work. Pages, the most important thing. But real quick, he does have a section of pinups. He's got some Colors Jam stuff in here. The contact, I assume this works. We're not going to send him a note right now, but he's got his Gmail right here for anybody who wants it. The About Me, studied at Rochester, home of the garbage plate, right? The last time I said that around someone from Rochester, they did not know what I was talking about. So maybe it's not home of the garbage plate anymore. I don't know. But this is cool. Yeah. Put a little bit of absolutely. Thank you. The garbage plate. Thank you. Yeah, this is cool. I like a little flavor. Like, get to know the person a little bit, what they're into. We'll talk about the pinups very, very quickly. I think that putting this one first and foremost was probably your best bet. Shannon's running water in the background. The Colossus is also very good. We can click these too. Ooh, we can click these. Yeah, the one thing I think that, and I think this is going to be when I took like a quick look at your work. Hey, what's up, mom's turn? Is that sometimes you have opportunities to separate foreground, middle ground, background, and you don't necessarily do as a convincing job as you probably could. This one is separated pretty well because both of these Transformers are warm colors, and Optimus has some cool colors on him, so he's popping forward just a little bit more, but you could really push that. This is probably, I think, the weakest out of the pile. If you were gonna cut one, I would probably cut this one. The metal isn't quite as convincing, and the background's a little uninspired, and the drawing kind of looks like Spider-Man's riding on the back of Iron Man. It's a little bit of, it's the weakest, not only because like the metal rendering isn't really working, but also because the drawing isn't really working. And this is also something we're going to talk about, but like put the most professional work you possibly can forward. So like if I'm working on like a Jim Lee page or any kind of like artist's artist page. If I'm working on like a Mike Mignola page, right? I don't have to do a lot. Like flat colors, done deal. Like I don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting if I'm working on a Mike Mignola page. If I start working on more amateurish art, and this isn't a slight against people starting or your friends who are or your peers or whatever. Like it's just the way it is. Like they're learning the same way everyone else is learning, and they're at a starting point or a couple of years into the career, and they're trying to figure it out just as much as anybody. But you have like seasoned professional line art on one hand, and then you have amateur line art on another. And amateur line art is always going to need more help to figure out planes, figure out clarity, things like that. So I feel like that, like, example, this is a Spider-Man page. Like, this is a Spider-Man page. This is so much more strong. Shit, its phone's going off. I don't know if... Oh my god, now she's on speakerphone.
It's the water company.
It's the water company. Oh my god. We've been dealing with water stuff. Anyway, let's get back to this. This is a little more amateurish than this. Like this has clear, like foreground, middle ground, background. There's like mood here. There's backgrounds. You were doing heavy lifting on the backgrounds here, trying to give it context. Here you don't have to, and this is a more successful piece. You're doing the rim light around Spider-Man for the moon. Like, the professional artist kind of teed you up a little bit better. And this is Joker. This was a colorist jam. Pretty good. I think, isn't his suit supposed to be purple? Wait, is he in his suit or is that just his shirt? No, it's his suit because he's got the hanky. I would maybe adjust it. This was another thing. Ghost Rider looks good. It's a little overblown with the flares for my taste, but it looks all right. Fire looks interesting. Looks really good. You used like some photo composite here that looked pretty good actually. Sometimes that stuff can go really awry. Another colorist jam. The one thing I wanted to talk about real quick is that when you do stuff like this, when you put Transformers front and center, it's a IP, and what Transformers people are going to want to see, people who control the IP for Transformers, is they're going to want to see that you can like follow on model. And I think that Sweet Optimus Prime's sweet thighs, I think that they're white, not this kind of like purple color. So you either need to, like I was saying, shift Optimus like with a shade of blue over all of him, or lighten up, like not lighten up, but make it less purpley, like desaturate it and brighten it a little bit, so that way he looks a little more on model. It looks like he doesn't necessarily have purple thighs. That's my only criticism with that, though. This is a neat piece. But we're just running through the pinups very, very quickly. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. We're getting into the comic pages. This is where we separate babies from other I don't know, whatever. We separate the men from the boys. I hate that expression. I don't know why we're using it. Anyway, the one thing that I would say, I dumped these all into Photoshop so that we could talk about them a little more in depth. But on the site, I noticed that they were in order as you like scrolled through until they were not in order anymore. The pip pages, they start like coming out of order. Like this is the third page. I think this is the second page. This is the first page. This is the fourth page. And then this was part of a 2-pager for Red 5. And you have all credits down here, which is great. And then we're back to Pit. And then we're at Bone. and then we're back to the red 5 book. So it's a little out of order. You might want to fix that before at some point. Maybe next time you update. It's not, like it's not a big deal. You don't have to rush out and do it. But next time you update, if you think about it, probably update it. I would say that you have 19 pages up on here. This one's kind of cheating because it's a pinup, but and so is this one. So we'll say, what's that? 17 pages. Yes, I can math. So I would say 17 is a little high for a page count. Normally, I can usually tell like what a person's capability is within 5 to 10 pages. Like I usually pick like a seasoned professional and certainly an editor will pick it up 2 pages. They'll know what you're throwing down, and then 5 pages is like let's see what else you got, and then 10 pages is like I want to keep going because I'm really enjoying this. And then if they get to the end of the 10 pages and they're like, show me more, that's when you can show them more. So I would take this and I would cut it down to a hot 10 rather than a lukewarm 17. Just my opinion. So yeah, let's start getting into these. I dropped them into Photoshop. I tried to separate them by piece for some reason, and this is not against you because we are a little off the grid, but just for the viewer, the pages, like I got like small versions of like a couple of pages, which was kind of weird, and then like these were the same size, but then like the two of the bone pages were the same size, but then this one was bigger, so it's in its own thing. I don't know if that's a website quirk, but just food for thought. All right, let's get into it. I think that a lot of your issues that you're having when I look at the and I don't know what's the newest stuff. Like I would say that I'd want to talk about I think that this stuff, the space stuff, I think is the oldest because it's at the bottom of the page. But you lead with this stuff, so we're going to talk about this stuff first. So here we have, I don't know who this is, some sound guy, I guess, blasting Sue Storm, and like he's taken out all the Fantastic Four, but you find out he's got a robot head. It's not really the Fantastic Four, and he's like, dang it, robot heads, dang it, robot heads, they're all robots, dang it. And then you find the Thing helping out people on the street, being a good dude, as the Thing is. Star Trek and the Crazies are the newest. Okay, so this is not the newest. I would say if you're sending this link to other people to get published, put your newest stuff first, 100%. And then this is not Fantastic Four stuff. I forgot what this stuff was. This is the Crazies. Okay, so this is the newest stuff. And the Star Trek stuff was also the newest. I assume this is, oh yeah, Vulcans. Okay. All right, I'm up to speed. Okay. So I know you said that this stuff was newer. However, I think that from a line art perspective, Fantastic Four is right behind them. I think the Fantastic Four stuff just has so much more interesting stuff going on the page that like I would just straight up cut these pages. Like you're doing some cool stuff with flares. I would personally dial it back a bit. And like I see you kind of struggling with foreground, middle ground, background kind of stuff, but the thing about this page is like it's a shot of a face. It's a guy watering a pig trough, shot of a face, shot of a face. And like, there's just not a lot here. And then the next page is shot of a hand with a gun, hand of a gun and face, silhouettes, gun and back, chest. I'm not sure. So like, this is what I was talking about with you want to put your best professional foot forward. If you were like, well, I colored this and it saw print and I'm proud of that, by all means. But I would put the Fantastic Four stuff over that stuff. And that has nothing to do with like, your ability on these pages. That has just like the art you were given. So if I were you, I would be like, here's my portfolio, Fantastic Four pages on like one part of the site, and then I would be like published work, and I would just put a bunch of covers, stuff like that. And then if they want to see it, they'll ask for it. So that's just my opinion, but I would cut this stuff because I just don't think it does you any favors. I'm like, if I'm an editor looking to hire, I'm never at a point where I'm like, oh, I wonder if he can do silhouettes. I wonder if he can do faces. No, we're not at that point. And this stuff is so much more strong. Like, let's deep dive into the Fantastic Four pages. Okay, so I don't think that this effect is that he's doing here is doing what you want it to do. I understand where your head's at. You're like, I'm going to do this like sound wave thing or this blast, and it's a special effect. It'll look good. It'll look like I'm doing a lot of rendering, but I'm not really doing a lot of rendering, like that kind of stuff. I would, at your level, I would shy away from that stuff. Mostly it doesn't work. Mostly you're going to end up with this, which is kind of a muddy mess. It would have been easier if you just put like a radial blast, radial grad. The pit stuff, actually right here, you did it really, really well. Like this works really well. And we're going to talk about why this works better than this when we talk about it. When we get to the pit stuff. Pit stuff, I think, is your best stuff. But one of the things that I see here is that you're kind of struggling with foreground, middle ground, background. And the other thing is that you've kind of lit, so you've made the ground the same color as the walls, which is the same color as like kind of the monitor. It's like all kind of samey. You don't get like a good, nice sense of space here. You could just like put a shadow in here, like create a little bit of drama like that. I mean, you don't want to get Sue in here, but I mean, I'm doing a terrible job of cutting Sue out of this thing, but we're just going to make a quick point. Is that you can add a lot of, oh my God, please Photoshop. You can add a lot of drama with just like a quick shadow. And then not only that, but the shadow is going to push you down. It's going to push you down into where you want to be focused, which is here. The other thing is that he's like wrecking up the Fantastic Four place. You could even like add like, cracks in the screen here that all are pointing at him. Like there's all these opportunities that you got to be kind of on the lookout for as a person coloring to like direct the eye to where you want the person to be. But let's solve, I see you doing this a lot, which is making the thing in the foreground darker, but not necessarily changing the hue. Like changing the hue will go just as far as making something darker. If we take Sue Storm here, please take Sue Storm. I'm gonna use the pen. I might bump the mic here, and I apologize if I do. We're fast and loose here with this. Super, just the fastest and the loosest. Can it get looser? I don't know if it can. All right. Like we can just like make her bluish. We will multiply, try not to drown out the blacks. Like just kind of making her this kind of like dark blue is doing a lot to, I mean, and maybe we can dial it back a little bit. Maybe warm up her skin just a little bit. Is doing a lot to like push her forward. And then the other thing is that like you have this guy in the back. We could do like, let's deselect, I guess, all this blue. I don't know if this is going to work. I'm furiously clicking. Kind of works to make the point. I don't know. This isn't going to work. I should have saved the Sue selection. Maybe I should have done these selections off screen before we started up the stream instead of learning about road signs. All right. This will get the point across. We can take this and kind of like warm it up a little like that. I mean, even if the warming up isn't to your taste, we can do it very, very subtly, just like a yellow, just a little bit of a wash. Like Sue's popping forward like crazy now, you know? Like she's really, really popping forward on this page. And if we look back, and we can put these like side by side. That like the one on the left, and the yellowing in the background is maybe not as great as it could be. You know what? It's gonna bother me if we don't fix it a little bit. There we go. A little redder. So like the one on the left, Sue's popping forward like crazy. Like if you really back it up, Sue's popping forward on this, but not as much as she potentially could, you know? Like when you look at these two like side by side, I know this is like 4 pixels on your screen right now. You're watching this on your phone and you're like, why is he doing this? But like you really want to like step away, like back up. That'll really illustrate like how strong the color choices you are. Yeah, about separating the planes more. Exactly. Yeah. And I really wouldn't worry about this stuff. This is the thing with like the blasts like this. You're not going to trick anyone. Anybody who knows anything about comics knows you're dropping in some fractal or something like that in there. I think it's about separating the planes more. It's also about like moving away from local color a little bit. Like Sue is very peach skin, blonde hair in this, and she doesn't have to be. Like we're over here at like purple skin tone, right? Like blue teeth. Like this is the color of her teeth right here. So you can kind of like step away and you can just do like 20% washes, see how it looks, like play in the space a little bit. I think it'll go a long way to like improving your work. However, I do like that you made the fire hot, fire indeed hot. Uh, I kind of wish that this is the same thing where we're talking about separating planes. Like Mr. Fantastic and the debris in here is the same kind of color as Johnny and the debris here. So except for the fire like kind of like separates them a little bit. But yeah, like you could do Johnny in like reds and then like Fantastic in like cooler blues back there because he's not like next to the fire. Johnny's next to the fire. Um, the texturing is rad on the thing. You like crushed it with that. Uh, I don't think you necessarily have to put as much. I see you putting in like a lot of work into the rendering here. I don't think you have to do that. I think that you're spending a lot of time there, and it looks fine. It's not that it doesn't look fine, but I feel like bang for your buck. I would have rather you spent a little more time thinking about um, like separating planes and color schemes, more general stuff than the nuances of like rendering the getting like this shine right and stuff like that. Um, I mean, it looks good. It's just it there's like when I color, there is a thing that happens where you have a set amount of time where you are like, okay, I can like objectively look at a page for 45 minutes before it starts to mentally start my brain starts to be treasonous. And then like I'm like, "Oh, this is looking great." Like I'm doing a good job. And then like I'll get a break from it and I'll come back and I'll be like, "Damn treasonous brain." Like tricking me, making me think I'm doing real good, but I'm not. Like there's when you start to get in like noodles in the weeds, you were saying perfectionist. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like it seems like you're doing a lot of work because you're sitting in the chair doing the work, but like it's just a different place that you're putting time. And I think that you would benefit more by putting time into more generalized kind of stuff than like figuring out the nuances of rendering. If I were you, if you want to try to like fix this stuff in your brain, not that this needs to be fixed, but just like this is like the wrong way to phrase it. If you want to try to level this stuff up as a colorist, I would try to take some of these pages if you have flats for them, or if you have flats for other pages that you want to add to the portfolio. Take them and try to do just flat color. Don't think about rendering, and try to make the pages work. Because once you take that worry off of your plate, it's like you start to be like, okay, well, how do I make this fade into the background? How do I pop this forward? How do I separate these planes when I'm not thinking about rendering? Because like you're clearly rendering Sue darker than you're rendering Reed and robot thing and guy over here. I don't know who this guy is. Excuse me. But like darker isn't necessarily better when you can use like a saturated, beautiful color to kind of convey the same kind of thing. The fire looks good though, and you're not shy of using flares. Like that stuff is stuff that like I shied away from a lot when I was first starting. That's good stuff. Like maybe dial it back a little bit, but like Claw is his name. Maybe dial it back just a tad, but like it's gutsy and I like it. And you separated the floor and the back walls here, which is like something that I wish you did on the first page. Like this is less separate than and that, I know that was my version, than this. Like one of the big things that and I just noticed you put this like awesome drop shadow in here too. That's That's rad. Drop shadows are fantastic. They ground your characters so good. And you're like rolling with what the artist put down here, and you're like, I'm going to add it up here. Thinking about stuff. I see it happening. That's good stuff. One of the things about rendering a room is if it's like a lot of times in comics, it'll be a shot like this, where it'll be like a floor will be one plane, one wall will be another plane, and another wall will be the second plane, you know? So when you have a situation like that, the easiest way to make that room feel like it's a 3D space is to do floor is one color, walls are a second color, one wall's darker, one wall's lighter of the same color. That will go so far for you and anyone else watching this. Like, it is so easy to make a 3D space feel more 3D by just like that simple trick. I do it all the time, maybe obnoxiously so. So yeah, that my one tip from me to you. I love this stuff. I think you can go a little less on the texture. Texture on the thing is fantastic. The same texture that you were doing here looks really great. One of the things about using texture is once we get further away from something, the high resolution textures start to not be as high resolution. You know, in life, you know, you see like a lot, like each individual leaf of a tree when you're real close to it, but when you like see a tree way off in the distance, it just kind of looks like a green blob, that kind of thing. So what I like to do is when I'm using texture like here, that's working really well, I might use the texture again here, but maybe just scale it back, like you know, fade it a little more than normal, because you don't got to go too crazy. It's the same thing with the trees and the grass. You're kind of flattening the trees and the grass a little bit because they're the same kind of texture. Although you're shading it out here, which is a smart move. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I love the construction stuff. You could have even gone matched the orange here for the truck a little bit. Don't shy away from bright, loud colors. You're pushing back the buildings in the background. That's all good stuff. Like when I started coloring, I was totally afraid of like touching any of the line art, like I was saying with the flares and stuff. And you are not. That is great. You don't need to get over that stuff like I did. The only thing is I would probably even push it more. Because these buildings are way far back, and we don't want them to compete with the rest of the image. You'd like go way far back. One of the things that I like to do with bright sunny skies like this is I'll take like the entire background here, like maybe not the kids playing, but like this stuff, all of this, just to separate the thing and make the thing the most, and what he's looking at, the kids here, like the most important thing on the page. Like I'll take this and I'll just warm it up with like a little something like that, you know, creates a little more depth. Not only that, but like if you notice, like we're pushing we're pushing all the values closer together by doing that. It's just a radial grad with screen. And this man before was like very dark, and he was fighting with the lines of the kids, and like this is kind of like a block of black right here with the bench, and it's fighting with like, he's right next to, so he's got this like dark hair, right? and he's right next to this light green, and like your eye always jumps to places that are like light and dark together, right? So we don't want that. We want your eye here. We want like, but like this together, like this gradient of color is like good, but like this is pulling us more. And if we could just say to the reader, oh yeah, 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 don't look at that actually. Even a green, like here's just a green. It just creates like a little more depth in the space. Let's see if we can back it up. Yeah. Just like that. You know, it's the same impulse that you have with the buildings, just carried over to a little bit of the background that's a little closer. And then you can even carry it around to this. The artist, you know, he's like, he or she, I don't know who drew this. They are like rendering out these leaves here, but then when you get down here, they're just like silhouette of a tree, because that silhouette of a tree, they're just like outlining it. Is clearly not the most important thing there. Like, so you can be like, okay, I understand that that's not the most important thing by spending the least amount of my time here, you know, like, and by like just pushing it back. Like, you don't need all this texture, you don't need all this work on it. Like, you can just keep it one solid color. I would even, if I was working on a panel like this, I would just be like green and then colorize the thing, the dark green lines, done deal. Like, you're putting a lot of time in here that you don't necessarily need to. And this is stuff like, don't kick yourself for this stuff. This is stuff that everybody learns along the way. Like, you do more pages, you pick up this kind of thing. Where do you put your time? This stuff looks good. The radial effect here looks a little better than the first time the guy showed up. I like the shadow that you're doing here. You're doing a lot of like gutsy shadows, which I really appreciate. That is the ever loving blue-eyed thing. Like, so some artists, some colorists, and we're not naming and shaming here. There's nobody to name and shame. That was a joke. There's nobody to name and shame. Some colorists do a lot of like soft shadows. Not soft is the wrong word. Low contrast shadows, where they will take, you know, they'll take some like a face and just kind of put some blush and maybe a little bit of dark around the edges or whatever. Maybe throw a grad through it, like very, very light stuff, light touch stuff. And I've always been a proponent of like, give me that gutsy shadow. Give me like, show me that you're like working hard, like thinking about this thing. And like, I love this because it's like the things in the darkness and then like he's stepping into the darkness with the thing. I wish that the thing had like a shadow cast across him on this so that it would kind of play a little better. So he'd be like in light, walking into darkness, in the darkness with the guy following him kind of thing. But still, it's like, it's a really neat thing. I don't know if I'd go as dark. You're like real dark here. Yeah. So I don't know. We've talked about this before on stream. It's been a long time since we've talked about it, but I don't know if your monitor is totally calibrated for print, but the easiest way to do that is to find a comic book that has a preview online somewhere and that you have in your possession, and like find an image from it, hold your comic book and try to get them to match as best you can, which is with as much light in the room so you can see the comic book. If it looks darker on your screen's too dark. You got to lighten it up. Cause I'm looking at it on my second screen right now, and this shadow doesn't look that dark, but you look at it in the color picker here and you're like way in here. Like you're at 54% K. That's like bonkers. I know this was an RGB page over to CMYK, but yeah, just something, just a technical note that you might want to think about. But yeah, a lot of times when artists do this kind of stuff, by the way, where they will kind of put somebody in kind of silhouette, like comic artists do this a lot, where it's kind of silhouette. You don't have to render that stuff. Just like dark blue, call it a day. Like uh, this kind of like, and then you're like trying to translate the shadow in here, just like a dark blue, dark red, like whatever the scene calls for, and it'll communicate what you want it to communicate. Uh, yeah, man, the Fantastic Four stuff is so much stronger than this other stuff. But let's talk about your pit stuff, because that's the best stuff. Um, Now, I don't know if this stuff was like, I can see that like there's some rendering happening here, and you are like leaning into it, which is so good. Like, I hate when I see a portfolio. One of the things that drives me nuts is when the artist is like, here's where all my shadows will go. And then the colorist is like, no, 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 I'm going to do my own thing. Like, no, always lean into the line work. Let the line artist work for you, work smarter, not harder. And you're definitely doing that. This shadow is so good. It's so good. I feel it in my bones. Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. Chris Sotomayor's good dude. Seasoned colorist. Seasoned. That dude's got a lot of work under his belt. He knows a lot about color. Also hangs out in the Discord occasionally. But yeah, these shadows look so good. You're popping, like, one of the things that you're doing really well on this page. Pit was the intro and FF was advanced. That makes sense because these pages leave you a lot more room to like make choices. And Pit seems like it's a little more, some guardrails are up just like a tiny bit. One of the things that I think you're doing really well here is that you're doing like all the debris here is all cool, and then we have our characters and they're like the warm thing here. So like really, like, not only are you rolling with the frame of this, but like your color choices are echoing that frame, which is really fantastic. I might differentiate the boat from the dock a little bit more. Maybe you don't need as much texture on the water. Water can be a tricky thing. I still struggle with it. I've been doing this now for, oh God, I've been doing this for close to 20 years. Anyway, I still struggle with water. There's like no good way to do it. So yeah, look forward to that. More struggle ahead. The rendering on the faces are all just very good. This face especially, you like really gotten into like the notches and stuff. It just works so well. I don't know if I care for this grad. You could have just gone like a reddish purpler and just flat. It would have been fine. It's a little dramatic of a grad for this moment. But yeah, I mean, this stuff's so good. We want more Pit pages. I personally don't like colored gutters. That's a personal preference. You're not doing anything wrong there. Did you add this little strand of hair? These little strands of hair are so good. I don't know if this was in the original or not, but so good. Such a nice touch. Yeah, you could have pushed this guy back a little bit. This is one of the things that I've been working on a lot in the past couple of years, is like kind of figuring out when to push the planes like a little bit more. We're not on the right layer. They were both knocked out, so you colored them hair color. It was a good instinct. You could even like push the line art back like a little bit like that, because these guys are like kind of in their own head. This guy's like kind of getting psychically beaten down a little bit. You know, you can push him way back. Like, feel free, even if he has a line, because the reader will know this guy's like trying to get Pitt's attention, but like is unable to if you push him back, you know? Also, this is like a lot of information to deal with, and you handled it pretty well. Like, I know that you did it very, very minimally. Depending on the editor and like whoever's looking at the pages, they might be like, well, you know, maybe get the hair color and the teeth and the eyes like a slightly diverse in hue, but like you know, keeping it tighter is better than having it be too much information. And the thing about this this page too is like you see this dude, like this guy isn't getting lost in all of the other guys, and we know that he's important, and we know that he's important because he was yelling at the guy on a previous page. He's this guy, so we know that like this interaction is important, and we know that this interaction is important. We know him from this page. That's the magic of color. That's you're choosing to tell a story that's awesome. That's like killer stuff. I don't have a lot to say about these Pit pages other than compliments. So like this stuff like is nitpicky kind of things. I think you're again getting a little dark. It looks fine on my second screen, but on my screen that's calibrated for print, it's a little bit dark. So you might want to watch that. That's just technical stuff. You fix that, you're fine. Draw the eye to the big monster. Yeah. And you did it. It looks really good. One of the things that I noticed that you're kind of getting is that, so you have these guys on the outside and these guys on the inside, and the shadows are getting darker on them as they move out, but it's getting darker in the floor, so we're lighting the characters in the middle, which is excellent. But one of the things that will really bump that panel is that as the characters are getting darker on the outside, and as the floor is getting darker as it goes to the outside, those two darknesses have to start to come together, because what's happening now is like you have such high highs and low lows happening with like this character on the outside that it's starting to compete with this stuff, and you don't want it to. Because this is such a gorgeous panel that you've made that like you don't want to take away from like what's happening. And I know there are chains here, but just for the sake of we're going to try to get away from the blacks. We'll see if we can do that. Maybe. Oh, we got to turn this off. Okay. Like if we not screen, just normal. Just kind of dull them out across the center. It kind of like blends them in a little more. And that way you have your highest highs and your lowest lows right here. And then these guys on the edges are still there, but they're like blending into the ground a little bit, and they're like kind of further out. So it looks a little bit stronger than this. This is like almost too much information, whereas this like kind of cleans it up a little bit. I don't know if I'd go with gray because it's starting to look very gray, but just, yeah. Still, it's very, very good. This is like nitpicky stuff. This all looks great. I might step away. See, like, so this panel works really well. As a focal point of the page, as like, you know, the effect like looks really good. It's nice and light. The one thing that I might think about, and then this, like what you did on the edges of this guy here with the light, like it's so good. You like the artist set you up, you leaned right into it. Perfect. The veins on this dude, like, are you kidding me? Nailed it. Look at this. Nailed it. he's a veiny weird dude, and you were like, I know what I'm doing with veiny weird dudes. Perfect. Yeah, all this stuff is so good. Rendered all the blood. It's like more than I would have done with the blood for sure. Uh, and then like you have this focal point. It's just like it works so well. The only thing that I might have done a little bit differently is I would have created the focal point, and I might have started to kind of like do some hard edged stuff around Pit, because like the kid is blasting, but like Pit really isn't. We're just gonna chuck and grind right here. We're gonna try some stuff. We're on the wrong layer. We're gonna try some stuff. Maybe. If this works. Hello, Photoshop. I'd like my money back. This works. Okay. Like you can even just like start to put like edge around here and then like into the hair, and like really start to like, because the kid's like blasting, like like start to put like some weird lines around. I don't know. This is just a thought. And maybe scale the effect back just a tiny bit, like 20% on Pit, and Pit will come forward and the kid will be blasting, and you'll understand that like they are separate. It's coming from the kid, but Pit is still like very close to it, kind of thing. But I mean, that's nitpicky because that panel like slays, dude. Yeah, this panel will get you work. The only thing that I would take into consideration, I keep going back to the Fantastic Four pages, is that so you have this like great mood scene of these docs, and you're kind of like locked into these like peaches for skin tones. It's okay to like kind of get away from the peach skin tones, especially because you're getting away. Oh, I keep going back to these pages because I keep wanting to go to other pages. You're in here and you're away from the peach skin tones because you're like pulling focus or whatever. But I cannot click the right pages. You can get in here and like. Let me see if I can lasso my way into this. Not this dude. Not Pit. I'm gonna try to lasso my way into this. Not any of this stuff. This stuff is all baller. Okay. Kind of just like a little bit of blue in there, or even like maybe a little bit of green. No, that doesn't work. I'm not sure. I'm figuring it out as we go. Like just like a little bit of mood would be good. Blue's tough because you start to gray out the skin, but you can kind of like get in here and go into the shadows of color balance and warm up the shadows just a little bit, and then in the highlights cool it down. You would have to do the same with the hair. It's not necessarily working as well because the hair is also very warm, but like you're in the docks at night, like it should feel a little bluer, but that's again very nitpicky stuff because it all reads really well, and then these were the other Pit pages. They were smaller for some reason when I was checking them out. They still look great. Like you're doing gutsy shadows here. I love it. You're a little off palette, a little bit to the point where it's starting to be like, it's starting to look weird. Like maybe the wheels are coming off the wagon a little bit, but it still looks good. I don't have a lot to say about these Pit pages because they're just very good. He's in this like warmer room now. You set it up with these lights. It's working really well. Darkness is here. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about these. They work really well. I would put all of them up front and center with your stuff. Um, this is the Red 5 book, correct? We are at now. Um, so this is one of the things I was talking about with like more amateur work. Oh, this is what we're doing. The box. Where more amateur work doesn't necessarily give you a lot of like room to work and look good, but you are doing like a vibe here that I don't see in like the pit pages where you're like sticking to like, you know, skin tones. When you're sticking to like peach skin tones here, like this is the colors you're using, and then we go here, and suddenly we're off the peach. We're in this like greenish, like rusty. What's up? This guy's drawing, and like that rules. I would love to see more of that. Like, get out of the box of like skin has to be peach and grass is green and sky is blue. Get out of that box. I would love to see you stretch your legs a little bit more and have fun with color. And I love that this is a whole vibe. I'm torn on whether you should like keep this stuff in or not. This page works a little bit less than the previous page. Yeah, there's a little too much local color for my taste. Only because like the drawing's a little weaker, and I'm kind of not really understanding what's going on here. Not because of your fault, but just because of the drawing. But I do like the vibe of these. I keep clicking around. I'm sorry. I do like the vibe of these. If it were up to me, I would make the car a lot more red, just so that the car is clearly important and it pops off the page a little bit more. The flares look good. Yeah, I like this stuff. I like it, but I'm torn on it because it is amateurish work. Keep it if you want to keep it, but it would be my first to go after this Fantastic Four page and then these 2 pages. I would cut those for sure. Ultimate portfolio stuff. Excellent. You pulled these pages. We put together a portfolio, a beginner's portfolio of a bunch of different stuff from a variety of sources. This is the bone stuff. It looks really good. I don't think you need to render this much. Like, you're in here in the weeds, man. I mean, if you like to render, look, here's the thing. Here's what I said in the beginning. That like get a bunch of people's opinions, and if everybody's like, don't render this much, then don't render that much. But if I'm like, don't render that much, and then somebody else is like, I love the rendering, keep doing it, like, that might be opinion. It might be. However, I think that the rocks look kind of weird in the bone stuff. And I think you're just doing, the other thing that I just realized is you have these rocks set up as like these 2 colors here. If you can see in the palette, this and this, these 2. You did the Ultimate Portfolio a long time ago. You should revisit it. And then you have them, they're different colors here. So you're kind of, but like different here as well. Like you're kind of closer to the other ones. You might end up with some like, editors look for continuity stuff. So you want to make sure all that stuff lines up, because then it shows that you can, if you have a scene across 4 or 5 pages, you have no problem making that scene look like it's set in the same place. You know what I mean? This is the earliest of the portfolio. Yeah. You got to go back in on that. Even if you don't come back to the bone stuff, you should definitely pull like some of the other pages from it. And if anybody wants it, it's up somewhere. That doesn't help you at all. I'll put the link in the description. I'll find it eventually. It's in the Discord. But a real quick tip for handling stuff like this, where it's like you rendered the rocks, but like it's like not necessarily working that well. Here, we can find it better actually. Okay, right here is perfect. So like these rocks are commanding a lot of attention because you have a lot of like stark highlights on them. We're going to try to deselect the black, but it's going to be a disaster. Just take like the dark color, draw it from the bottom, take the light color, draw it from the top. You faded it back a little bit, you know, until as needed. So that looks a little bit better, a little softer than this, you know? And now it's not competing with the bones. You were doing such bad blocky cut and grad. Hey man, I love cut and grad. Cut and grad's my bread and butter. When I started doing coloring, like I'm gonna make a video on this to accompany the flat video, but like when I started coloring, all I did, like I didn't mess with any of this stuff that you're doing in here with like soft rendering and stuff like that. If I had this page, it would be like Fombone white, and then he's getting a light blue cut on him, and that is it. That is all I am doing. And not only that, but like I wasn't even putting shadows into backgrounds. Like I was just like, let's cut the characters and then we're calling it a day. Like that's how bare bones I was working when I first started coloring. And this is the thing about coloring is like you can get so overwhelmed with like there's like you're juggling, you know, color composition, storytelling, rendering, hue, saturation. You're juggling like textures. You're juggling like all this stuff at the same time. You're trying to keep all these balls in the air. And it's like, if you can, especially when you're starting, if you can eliminate some of those so that you just don't have to deal with them and still have a strong page at the end, it might be in your best interest, or in anyone's best interest, actually, not you specifically. But yeah, these pages look pretty good, little continuity issues. This guy is blending into this stuff where he should be forward and this stuff should be back. Let me give you a quick tip on like trying to push some stuff back when you run into things like this where it's like, okay, so I understand where your headspace is. You've got these background characters and they are dark. They are not part of the scene. The scene is over here, right? The scene is with the bones. So you want to push that out, right? So you make it a little dark. But then you have a guy in the foreground. He's also not part of the scene. He's also dark. You can kind of like and we're going to be again fast and loose with the wand here, or with the lasso. Apologize for my selection. You can just take like this color and just like push it back. Just push it back a little. You can do the same on the other side. You can do the same over here. I just grabbed the ground color. And we still have like, the bones are still like front and center. These guys are clearly in the foreground. These guys are clearly not part of the scene. The bones are part of the scene. And we just like focused up a little bit better. And we still kept foreground, background stuff looking really well. Yeah. Like little stuff like that is learning when that move that I just did, like learning when to just like throw a grad through some characters or throw a grad through the background or whatever. It's the same stuff that I was doing when we were talking about the thing on like this stuff. Learning where to like put those grads to just like be like, I'm separating foreground and background here. Like this is a little busy. I'm gonna do what I can to kind of fix this. That's a lot of the game. because artists, when they draw in black and white, some of them, not all of them, like you get your Mike Mignola's, you get your Chris Somneys, you know, they're gonna think about all this stuff for you. But a lot of artists will sit here and be like, the thing is looking at kids playing in a park. I'm gonna draw the whole park, you know? And then you get in there and you're like, why are we drawing the whole park? We just want to look at the thing. That's all we want, you know? So, and that's not a slight against artists. That's just like how comics are made, you know? This is a very like select kind of business. It's a very like niche thing, what we do. Um, the same thing with the background between the panels is kind of like falling in on each other. If you just like feels called out, no, it's just comics. It's I'm not calling out any artists, but the thing is that you look at like the artists who like really get it, like the artists who not only can cartoon a human being very well, but like understand light, storytelling, and focus. You get people like Chris Somney, who's just like I'm gonna draw the Batcave, but like I'm gonna put 60% of it in shadow, the stuff that doesn't matter, and I'm gonna do it in a way that's clever and interesting. And it's like, fuck, man, why can't everyone just be Chris Somney? Why can't everybody just be Chris Somney? I don't know. Anyway, or you know, Mike Mignola is the same way. But I'm just putting like a little blue in here, just to make these panels pop out. Little blue grad, and like just those couple of grads makes a world of difference. And this is stuff that's kind of tough to see until you see it happening, and then you're like, oh my god, you're gonna start to see it all over the place in your work. It's do it again right here. We've got all these buildings in the background that are in the way background. We're just going to take this color. Boom. See you later, buildings. You are fading back. You know? You could do it again right here. We can fade these guys back. And it's important that this guy's in the shot, so we're gonna deselect him, and then put a little grass down, put a little dirt down. Boom. You know? This stuff, a lot of this stuff can go a long way. And this is stuff that's like when you start working in comics and you start coloring, it's hard to know where to adjust. It's weird because it's not traditional painting. Traditional painting is like you're not working with traditional painting. You usually have a sketch. You lay down like a base color, and then you start to build. You push and pull away from that base color, you know? With comic books, you start with a black and white image. So things are like all given the same kind of weight as everything else. So it's up to you to kind of make these choices of like, okay, well, if I was going to paint this, like these buildings' lines wouldn't have the same kind of like weight and importance as the lines on you know, Phony Bone here. Is this Phony Bone? This is just bone, right? This guy's just bone. Anyway, so you're like, okay, how do I push that back? How do I make those lines less important? And like, this is the way to do it. I do think that the bone pages are a little weaker than your other pages. I would make the balloons very, very white, like the gutters. I don't know that they're like, I wish that you brought this kind of insanity into these bone pages. That would have been kind of fun. But yeah. There's also like, just real quick, because I noticed it on this bone stuff. I don't see you doing it very often, but you did it here, where you're doing these like cut and grad stuff, but then you're hyper rendering bone. You kind of want to like, when you're coloring, you make like a language, and you have, it's like we're speaking English and Spanish at the same time when I see this stuff, because it's like kind of the same but kind of not, and like uh you just want to be mindful of that. This is the Star Trek stuff. I don't know that we need to really jump into this because it's a lot of the same stuff with like pushing and pulling, like foreground, middle ground, background stuff. Yeah, I don't know. We need to get into it too much because it's a lot of the same stuff going on. It looks pretty good. I like the planet stuff. Like this grad pulled in the front looks really great. I'm trying to think if there's anything I want to say about these. I don't necessarily think so. I think we talked about most of the stuff. If I were you, um, and I was looking for comic work, what I would do, let's go back to your website. Let me give you all the constructive stuff that I possibly can, because you are doing some really cool stuff in here, and I think that there's stuff you need to lean into and stuff you need to lean away from. And like this kind of stuff didn't work. It worked here, and I think that gut feeling, I feel like you know it. Like it's working here, it's working here. It's not necessarily working here. Part of the reason why it's not necessarily working here is because you have his like thigh here kind of competing with some of the blasts, are like some of the blasts are covering up the blacks. Some of it is not. It's kind of all competing with each other, and it's turning into like kind of something muddy. Whereas this is like kind of creating a coherent like colorscape with it. And like there's not like weird blacks that are popping out and competing with it or anything like that. It all works, you know? Same thing with here. It's like, I know that his brain is casting this thing because of this like shape that you put here, but it's like its center is white and it like looks like it's emanating from that center. You know what I mean? Whereas this, I don't feel like is emanating from anywhere. I feel like it's just a picture on top of the image, you know? So here's what I would do. I would cut that first page. I would just keep this page, right? Keep these pages. Keep the Fantastic Four stuff. I would cut these two pages. Keep all the pit stuff and put it front and center. Put these two pages in the back if you're going to put them in. Maybe tweak the bone pages a little bit. They're also generally looking a little brown. So I would like make his shirt a little greener, make his shirt a little greener, you know, like the bones should be the same kind of color, I think. I read it in black and white. In my brain, I assume they're the same color. I would kind of make them the same color the balloons white. Just like a little cleaning house on these bone pages, and I think they would work really well. I would cut this page because it's just a single panel. And I might cut the Star Trek stuff entirely. So what would that leave you with? You'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 pages. More than enough. You could maybe even cut the box stuff. Now, going forward, when you do more pages, here's the things that I would like to see from you. Thinking a little more about foreground, middle ground, background. I see you doing it here. Like you're knocking out the trees and stuff, and you're knocking out this stuff. So it's like kind of further away in the distance. And you're darkening that pig. The foreground stuff doesn't need to be dark. It just needs to be different, you know? So you could do like have everything kind of be dark blue and have the rest of the scene be fine, and you will create that sense of space. I'm not saying that you need to like necessarily do exactly that every time. I'm just saying start to experiment a little bit more. Go with your instincts. And the other thing is, as speaking of going with your instincts, I think that You know what's going to work. Like, I think that you probably put a lot of time into this. This is me just conjecture. I think you probably put a lot of time into this, and you're like, well, I don't know if this is working. I can't get it to work. I think it's working okay. I'm not sure. I put a lot of time in. I'm just gonna leave it. And then I think when you did this, you were like, shit is banging. Like, I am a god. Like, I think that's that's your gut speaking to you. Like, that's your gut telling you, maybe not. And that's your gut telling you, like, yes, go with that. Um, so maybe try to listen to your gut just a tad more. This is suffering from the same problem as this like effect, because it's the line art is on top of the effect. You want the effect on top of the line art. Looks like it's like out of order. Because the lines are coming through. It's like, I don't know. It's just not working. And going forward with new pages, coloring cell shaded DCAU stuff from your webcomic. Go to comfort activity. Yeah. Nice. What's up, DC Watchtower, by the way? Eric, listen to the gut instinct while the guts are being blown out. Yeah, exactly. DCAU Watchtower, by the way, does a lot of really great DCAU content. You should check them out if you like the DC animated universe. So yeah, the two things that I think that you should try is trying to separate planes more with color instead of like shading. And by shading, I mean, it seems like you just made things darker when they came forward. Like, I don't know how to describe this. Darker, not with hue, but darker with shade. And I'd like to see you kind of outgrow that a little bit. And then also try to just break out of the local color stuff a little bit more. And you know what? The best place to do both of those things is like experiment with pinups. Like you're clearly like thinking about that stuff, you know, like you're breaking, like, look at this moody stuff back here. You know, like you're thinking about this stuff when you pages are harder than pinups. And I think when you're a little looser, and you're not putting as much pressure on yourself, or maybe spending as much time in the chair trying to get every little thing right, you're doing this stuff already. Like, I'm telling you to do it and you're doing it already. Just lean into that stuff. Lean into it hard. Yeah. I think you have, especially with these pit pages, and there's like glimmers of it in the Fantastic Four stuff, and like this stuff like looked really good. I see a lot of like burgeoning brilliance. There's a kernel in here that you just gotta do enough work and experimentation to kind of like break out of the newbie beginning to color kind of stuff, and then like break into that stuff and break into like the kernels. And then once you find what's working for you with those kernels, where your gut is like, because this is, I mean, maybe I'm being redundant here, but like, you know, when we're talking about this stuff and I'm like, this isn't working and this is working, these are the same ideas happening, and you're like figuring it out. I see you figuring it out. And like, even though I'm like, hey, don't do this, when you did it here, I was like, this is awesome. So maybe do it, but do it well. Is that just do things well? Is that a good, that's not good advice at all. What I'm saying is you're on the path. You're on the path for sure. I see you putting the work in. I see you working hard. You took Chris's class. Fantastic. Yeah, I would just keep doing pages, man. You'll get there. I think that you are definitely extremely hireable for an indie project. Like, you're not shying away from color. You just need more time and more practice. Maybe do it, but do it well. Yeah. it's definitely a challenge for you to break out of the coloring space norm. You mentioned in an interview you did where you want to just barely tweak the hue settings. Yeah, 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 yeah. Just real quick. Um, let's copy this page. When I was talking about like breaking out, we can do it on this page. When I was talking about breaking out of the coloring hue norm and getting away from local color, more specifically, here's how I did it when I started. And this is stuff that will kind of arm you a little bit more. So we're going to try to deselect the black and see what happens. When I started coloring, did I do that? Is this good? I think we're good. When I started coloring, I would take flats and I would kind of get them looking like everything was midday. So like this is pretty basic midday stuff in for the thing. Let's pick a wild page. So like this page, right? Because we're in the lab. Who knows what the lab is colored? So I would just take stuff like this, and instead of getting like overwhelmed, I would color it all midday, color it all local color, instead of getting like overwhelmed with like, what am I going to make the walls? What am I going to make the ground? What am I going to make like each of these individual elements, I would just like try something out. I would just take a color, fill it, fade it, and be like, is this working? I don't know. Is this working? You could even do it on a separate layer, fill it, fade it, and then be like, all right, I'm going to figure out what's going to work. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's this. This is looking good. Maybe this will work. And then like kind of like go from here and be like, okay, well, the fire's got to be hot. So, let's erase some of the fire. Hold on. I will get there eventually. It's not a race. Look, it's not a race. The fire's got to be hot, so we'll make the fire hot again. And then I'd be like, okay, this is like kind of starting to get there. And this is where I would like start from, just like wash it with a color. And then so I'd go from here and I would be like, okay, yeah, you can do that as an adjustment layer and go from there. It's about like trying to figure out like what's going to work for you. And like, that's how I did. I just did a wash of color. Like I was not doing an adjustment layer. I was not doing like you can absolutely like, get in here and be like, okay, color balance adjustment layer, like get in here and crank up the magenta and, do whatever you need to do. I was simply just like, listen, when I started my career, dumb as a box of rocks, trying to just like do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. And I was like, I know that when you paint, right? When you make a painting, I forgot who the painter was. Van Gogh, maybe? I can't remember who the painter was. There's a famous painter that said that when you paint, it's like you're painting the green grass, but you're also painting the air between you and the green grass. And that's what that wash of color is. Like 20% value of like whatever. We can do that on like a pit page. So like we're in the hangar here, we can take this pit page, deselect all the black, and just like Picasso. Thank you, Eric. And just like a little bit of blue. Not only does it like unify the palette, because now every single color has that little bit of blue in it. And this is just 20% blue. I'm not doing anything like crazy, like no adjustment layer, no sliders, dumb as a box of rocks, just like blue's good, blue button. Like this is all that I'm asking of you. And like you kind of start to get like away from you're in this like desaturated space. You're starting to get away from like these kind of local colors. Pitt's green, but he's not green. Like it's you start to ebb and flow away from this stuff. Like whereas this is like very much pink, you know, and then now you're in this like gray space. So it's like you got gray, you got pink, and this is the difference. And visually, you look at this page and you're like, "Oh, skin tone." You're not even thinking that this looks gray because it like all works together. And just a like 20% wash to start like gets you like 75% of the way there. From that point, you just kind of like tweak as needed. So like what I would do is I would do a single cut, like I was saying, dumb as a box of rocks, single cut, and then wash it, and then be like, okay, the shadows on the skin tones are getting too blue. Let me warm them up a little. Okay, the if I like did the page over here with the we're at the park, right? So we're outside at the park. I might do let me deselect the blacks. I might do like a light yellow, very, very, very subtle, fade it back just to create like a warmth, you know? And this is like ridiculously subtle, but like, it's not nothing. Like, just a little unification, just a little bit. And then from there, I'd be like, okay, it's turning the tires a little bit green. Like we'll make them gray. We'll like flat out gray. And like, I'd go in here and be like, well, it's maybe it's making something a little different. Usually on the opposite end of the color spectrum. So if like you're washing it with yellow, the purples are gonna start to look weird or whatever. That might need correcting. But like that kind of bare bones stuff, like put the rendering aside, knock that stuff out, and then once that's under your belt and you're like knocking that kind of like emotional reaction to color out, then like all the other stuff will come later. And it'll be easier and easier for you. Like the more you do it, like you'll be like, okay, you know, we're doing a flashback, we're doing a night scene, we're doing a scene in the lab, we're doing there's a fire in the lab, we're doing, like you'll just start to be like, you stop thinking about it like that, and you'll be like, okay, yellow, blue, magenta, green. You just start to like break the scenes up in your mind in like dominant colors, and then once you start to get to that place, then you can start to be like, then you're like in the weeds with like rendering. So I don't know. I hope this helped you. I hope this was good food for thought. As far as tackling this stuff, you show a lot of promise. I hope you stick with it. I hope that this hasn't demoralized you, and absolutely put your portfolio in front of as many people as possible. Go hit up your local cons. Like, I would say the smaller the convention absolutely helped you. Awesome. I would say the smaller the convention, the better is always my attitude. As long as they have some sort of comic artists there, that you like the work of, like smaller conventions, you get more time with people because there's less of a demand. San Diego Comic Cons are like bonkers. The thing about stuff like San Diego or New York City is that there's like 100,000 people there, and then like you get 20 seconds with everyone. But like a lot of times I'll be at a show and tabling, and somebody will come up with a portfolio, and if there's like nothing going on, I'll be like, yeah, let's like hash it out. Let's sit down and hash it out. You made this portfolio. You came to this show. You want my opinion. Let's like fucking do it up, So yeah, I would do some small tweaks, a little editing for the page count, and then start to see what other people say as well. And then kind of take this stuff as food for thought and don't get too in your own head about it and go forward. You know, do some more pages. Also, absolutely, Steve. Uh, if you do a bunch more pages, if you do 10 more pages and you're like, put me on the list for another portfolio review, absolutely do that. And if anybody else wants a portfolio review, pop into the Discord, drop it in the portfolios for review section here. We chat all the time on Discord. I'm always on Discord. If I'm sitting in the chair working, I'm on Discord. And a lot of times I'll get messages from people or they'll chat in the chat about it and they'll be like, hey, I'm working on this comic and like this is happening and like Arnold, you will be back. Thank you. Please come back. And like I'm here like to field questions. Like people would be like, I'm working on this comic and the writer says this and the artist says this and this feels shady to me. And I'll be like, that's shady. Or I'll be like, no, that's fine. You're good. Like, if you ever want a pro to like bounce an idea off of, like I am basically on demand at this point. So, I will happily talk to you about that. Also, we talk about video games a lot. I just made this Super Nintendo today. I worked on that today. We hang out and show art and, show our own progress. There's like a self-promote channel. You can like put stuff in. Bernardo just worked on this. I picked up something. I just got Gardener. Sounds like a place to be. It is a place to be. And even if you don't want to hang out all the time, come by if you want your portfolio reviewed. Drop it in the chat. You can peace out. Like I'll get to it eventually. You'll see it on stream eventually. And I will give you my honest take on it. Absolutely come by. If you're into making comics, if you're into coloring comics, like I try to be as helpful as possible. That said, is there anything else to say about the channel? 2 days, Boyks and I are going to be playing some Castlevania side by side as we've been doing on the stream for a while. I still want to get back to some Fire Emblem. My GameCube's sitting over there glaring at me, and I want to get back into it. What else is going on? I'm gonna start streaming again. Start streaming some art again. I always say this, but I do genuinely want to start to get back into this. I got a little turned around with coloring is your greatest weakness. So you're just here to be quiet. If you're looking to step up your coloring, I've also like people have sent me stuff over DMs on Discord and been like, what do you think of this? Like, what am I doing? I'm a little in the weeds. And I've been like, here's what you should be doing. And they'll be like, oh, that makes sense. I'll try it. I try to be as helpful as possible. Comics are so hard to make that like getting feedback should not be the thing that dissuades you from, if you do the work, I am willing to give you feedback. I am willing to be as transparent as possible and help you out as much as possible. And you should all follow Steve. Let's plug his site one last time. He is I will drop this right in the chat. Can't become Twitch's #1 hot tub streamer without putting my hat in the ring. Very true. I think his info is down here as well. Should all, you know what? Look at that. Now we're following Steve. Now we're all following Steve. We'll be playing some Castlevania in a couple days. I hope you stick around for it. And we'll be doing more art next week. Thanks for coming by. Thank you again, Steve, for putting the portfolio up. Thanks everyone for hanging out and chatting. Keep making comics. I guess. I used to say that. I haven't said that in a long time. We haven't been streaming art in a long time. Keep making comics.